Hello, and thank you for joining us for the weekly update. My name is Scott Algier, and as always, I'm joined by Jonathan Braley, our operations manager, and Ian Andriachek, our operations coordinator. Gentlemen, thank you for joining.
Thank you, Scott. Glad to be here.
So, John, I think it's your turn to go first this week. There's a Windows 0 day that was found by a friend at Google, and what can you tell us about that?
Sure. So this was CVE 2020-17087. Kind of the reason it was disclosed by Google was it's kind of being used in conjunction with a issue in Chrome, which was CVE 2020-15999. So it's a buffer overflow vulnerability in the Windows Kernel Cryptography Driver. And a Microsoft spokesperson stated that it was very limited and targeted in nature, but they haven't seen a lot of evidence of it being kind of used widespread, but that doesn't mean that it's not important. And I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about a 0 day. If you're unfamiliar, 0 day is essentially when a vulnerability is released and the vendor has not had time to patch it. So it's kind of the Wild West where the vendor is scrambling to fix the vulnerability, and the companies are trying to mitigate as best they can until that patch is out. So this is definitely more dangerous because they've already seen targets being hit in the wild. So the new bug allows the attacker to escape Chrome sandbox, which normally isolates the Chrome browser from other apps, and it allows them to run malware on the operating system. So as of now, I think the best course of action is probably just to make sure that your version of Chrome is up to date, because all signs kind of point to this vulnerability being used in conjunction with the new Windows vulnerability. So patching Chrome should protect you as we kind of await for that official patch, which they're saying is going to be November 10th. And to update Chrome, if you're unfamiliar, you can usually look in the top right-hand corner of your browser. There should be an arrow telling you to update. But you also can go to Settings, Help, and press About Chrome, and it will kind of do an automatic update check for you. And you can just check there if your Chrome browser is up to date.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Jonathan. We did see a lot of news associated with that, so that's great of you to highlight that for everyone. Ian, last week we talked about a Kimsuky, the APT Group. What have we seen from them this week?
Yes, Scott, I just want to provide a quick update for everybody. The attacks have continued against organizations worldwide. And as I mentioned last week, North Korea's Kimsuky Group has been using spear phishing techniques in an attempt to compromise networks for data exfiltration. A new module with new set of capabilities dubbed as KGH_spy is being used for reconnaissance or continued observation of targeted networks. The KGH module contains functions that capture keystrokes and steal sensitive information, as well as it also has backdoor capabilities. Attackers can exit and enter any systems leisurely, and also download secondary payloads from C2 servers. Malware is also seen stealing credentials from browsers, password managers, and WinSCP, and as well as Telnet clients. Researchers have noted that the Kimsuky Group are excellent at keeping a low key, remaining undetected in networks. They've covered their tracks via obfuscation, anti-VM, and anti-bugging techniques. And although researchers have not completely pinpointed the group of individuals responsible for these attacks, it is known that they are highly interested in foreign policy and national security issues. So yeah, just as I said, just a quick update for everybody. I hope it was useful. Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Still active, and obviously in any APT group is worth paying attention to. So thank you for bringing that update to us. And Jonathan, over to you. Another 0 day, this time with Cisco AnyConnect. So what does Cisco have to say about that?
Yeah, so we were able to get some information off Cisco's Product Security Incident Response Team, their page, which is their PCERT. So Cisco, they closed a 0 day vulnerability, which they're tracking as CVE 2023-556. It's in Cisco's AnyConnect security mobility client software, which is essentially their their AnyConnect VPN. So publicly available proof of concept code is in the wild. Haven't had any reports of attacks, but because there's a public source of the proof of concept code, it's only a matter of time until we start to see that. A little bit more about AnyConnect. It is a unified security endpoint agent that delivers multiple security services to protect an enterprise. It's available on a broad set of platforms, including Windows, Mac OS, Linux, iOS, Android, as well as Windows Phone, BlackBerry, and Chrome OS. It does say here that the versions of Windows, Linux, and Mac OS are vulnerable, but the iOS and Android clients are not impacted by this flaw. So we're still waiting for a patch. I haven't had an official word on when that will actually be, but they do have some mitigations available. The first thing they recommend is that a vulnerable configuration requires both the auto update setting and the enable scripting setting be enabled. They note that auto update is enabled by default and enable scripting is disabled by default. So Cisco is recommending you disable the auto update feature to mitigate against CVE 2023-556. The PCERT team is not aware of any attacks in the wild that have exploited the vulnerability, but they say that the attack surface can be drastically decreased by toggling off the enable scripting configuration settings on devices that it's enabled on.
All right, super, thank you for that. No update yet, but some workaround mitigations, which is useful. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I think that wraps it up for this week. So thank you, Jonathan and Ian, for talking with us today. And thank you to everyone for viewing the weekly update.